Hey everyone, Tasha here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my finances. I've learned a lot about this over the last bunch of years, not only working at Microsoft and the resources there, but just trial and error and failing honestly a bunch of times and succeeding at other times, and really just thinking critically about my money, what's important to me and whatnot. So disclaimer, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial expert. I'm just sharing my experience, what I've learned, and how I set all of my things up and what my kind of philosophy is on everything. If you like videos like this, make sure you subscribe for more. First thing I'm going to talk about with money is just kind of some of the high level philosophy. Money for me is a means to an end, really. And there's like two things that are the end. One is like security, short-term, mid-term, and long-term, and I'll get into my thinking on those in just a bit. The other is entertainment, right? Like what makes me happy? What are the things that I like to spend money on and have fun with and whatever it might be. So those are the kind of two ends for the why that I have money and pursue money. The more important thing to me is, again, my mission, working on Halo and whatnot. If money was the thing that I was chasing, the end goal, I might have a different job. I might do different things for money. I might save money a different way. I might invest in a different way. Money is not the end goal for what I do in life. In fact, I would imagine there are a lot of people my age who have way more money than I do, but I don't really care. This is the way I think about my money. This is what's important to me. And ultimately, these are the things that make me happy and make me feel secure. So that's the high level how I think about my finances. The other thing I thought a lot about is, to coin a phrase from Ramit Sethi, if you haven't read his book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, you should check it out. Totally changed my thought process around money. He talks a lot about money dials and just understanding what you like to spend money on and what are the things that you don't really care to spend money on. He talks about living a rich life, which means, and to quote him, spending extravagantly on the things you love and cutting mercilessly on the things that you don't. So for me, the things I like to spend money on are my personal hobbies. So I like photography, so I have a nice camera. And you know, I've graduated in the camera equipment that I've purchased over the years, but I enjoy it so much. It gives me so much happiness, and I'm happy to not only spend money on camera equipment, but also go on trips and do things for the sole purpose of taking photos. Another one that is, let's say, less important to me is like clothing. Like, I don't buy expensive clothing. You're not gonna find me with like big brand name department store stuff like Gucci or Prada, anything like that. Like, that just doesn't appeal to me. You know, I wear pretty simple clothes. This is like a $30-something shirt. The only clothing item that I actually like to spend money on are Jordans. I have a couple dozen pair of Jordans, which I know is not a lot compared to a ton of people, but I grew up watching Jordan. The whole family did. Grew up wearing Jordan. So Jordans for me is just like now that my foot has stopped growing, I like to just have a pair of Jordans. And when the weather's nice, I look at my shelf and I say, oh, you know, which pair of Jordans do I want to wear today? You know, again, those aren't even like thousands of dollars pair of Jordans. They're like a couple $100. Those are kind of some of my money dials and what I like to spend money on and also not spend money on. And what I would say is, it took a long time for me to understand what are the things that really resonate with me in terms of what I like to spend money on and what are the things that I don't really care about. One thing that I discovered over time about myself is, like, I really like to treat people. I like to buy gifts. I like to take them out to dinner and drinks and pay for everything. When we do like an event or whatever it might be, we have a big group get together. Like, a lot of times, like, I will get the whole check for the table or whatever it might be. I just like the idea of removing that payment anxiety from other people. It makes me happy, and generally the people I'm around are very grateful, and it's just creates a great fun environment. And I don't like money to get in the way of happiness, because again, it's a means to an end for me. Same thing for when, like, you know, I have friends or family, whoever it might be, that want to go on a trip but maybe can't, or I want to invite them here. A few years back, I flew out my 3 brothers and my 2 cousins to come visit me in Seattle. We'd always talked about, hey, you guys should come visit me now that I live out here. You know, they all live in New York, and it was always like schedules didn't line up, or the timing wasn't right, or, you know, we could get one but not some, like whatever it was. There were just a lot of excuses, and I honestly just got tired of it, and I just bought everybody tickets to come visit. And I got an Airbnb in the town next over, and we spent like 5-6 days together, and it was awesome. Like, it was the first time that this group of people had gotten together for something like this, I think, ever. You know, we want to do it every single year now, so, you know, it costs a lot of money, but it was worth absolutely every dollar. It was one of the best times that I've had. So that's one of the money dials that really makes me happy. And sure, could I have invested that money? Could I have used that money to get more money? Absolutely. But, you know, again, like, doesn't necessarily, you know, make me happy. Okay, so like I mentioned before, there's kind of 3 time phrases that I think about with money. There's, of course, short term, mid-term, long term. And I try to make sure that when I'm planning out what I'm doing with my money, that I'm taking care of those kind of individual needs. And so short term is more like immediate, like day to day, week to week, month to month. You know, do I have the money to eat and pay rent and pay the bills and basically just like keep a roof over my head, and also like help out, you know, the family with other stuff when things come up. You know, for me, how I do that is, you know, I work really hard at my job at Microsoft. I do my best to, you know, level up and get promoted and do all these things. Like, I focus so much of my time and energy in my job. That's how I take care of that kind of short-term need. I'll go next to long-term because I think it's just easier to portray. Long-term is like, I'm 60 above, right? And, you know, I want to make sure that I'm financially secure, that I don't need people to take care of me. I can take care of myself, meaning from a monetary perspective. Like, I assume at that point I'll have kids and whatnot, but I want to be able to not rely on other people for money and be able to, you know, if I don't feel like working anymore at that age, like, I don't have to work anymore. I think about all my investment accounts, my 401k, all of the other Roth IRA, all these other accounts and investments that I make long-term, to know that, hey, when I get old, I'm gonna have money and be comfortable. And that's really important to me. The one that I'm frankly still figuring out is kind of the midterm time period, which is honestly a little fuzzy. It's like the next 3, 5, 10, 15 years-ish. I guess I still need to think through what's most important for me in that time frame. What I would imagine it would be is making really big kind of lifetime purchases, right? Imagine I get married, have kids, I want to buy a house, I want to put them through school, I want to make sure that, you know, we can afford to have a bunch of kids. Like, those are the things that I want to make sure I have money for, and I'm making the right choices financially to set myself up for those big purchases. So those are kind of the different time periods that I think about, and I try to be super thoughtful and critical and think critically about, you know, how I allocate my money and how I think about it for those periods of time. Okay, next I want to go into like my money and investment breakdown. So I'm not going to dive into the specific numbers, just going to give kind of rough percentages into how I allocate you know, like a month's pay, for example. First thing I do is, you know, 25% of my paycheck goes straight to 401k. I don't even ever see the money in my bank account. It just goes straight to my 401k. That is, you know, Microsoft has a great match for that. And so I get a bunch of money from Microsoft just for supporting and funding a 401k. And again, that's like a long-term, making sure long-term I'm set up for success there. The next is the MSPP, which is a Microsoft stock purchase program. Basically, what you can do is buy Microsoft stock at a 5% discount. So I allocate 4 or 5% every month to purchasing those stocks at that discounted rate. And for me, the way I think about it is, Microsoft is obviously a big, successful company, has a strong potential to have a long-term higher stock price. And so I want to make sure that I have the ability to capitalize on that, especially when I'm getting an offer to, you know, purchase them for cheap. So purchase them on the side, but I also still get a bunch of stocks from Microsoft just for being an employee. And those are kind of through the bonuses and signing bonuses and whatnot that you get basically on a yearly basis. And those take time to vest. So, you know, the longer I stay at the company, the more stocks I get. It's kind of how they hook you into staying with the company, which is totally cool for me because I don't want to leave. Microsoft's a great company and I'm very happy doing the work that I do. I have another few percent going to the health savings account. This is to take care of any kind of out-of-pocket medical expenses that I either am planning for or are not planned for. So I like to make sure I have a stockpile of cash for any worst case scenario. That money's actually getting invested into an index fund. It's a Vanguard index fund so that, you know, it's still accruing and making money instead of just kind of sitting there and really becoming less valuable with inflation and whatnot. After all those, basically half of what's left goes to other investments, Roth IRA, every single paycheck and really every year now for the last 4 or 5 years. I have other index funds that I'm investing in. I have a couple percent of that going into crypto, specifically Ethereum and Bitcoin. That for me is just like, you know, dabbling, long-term play. Not really, I don't really pay attention to it, to be honest, very much. After all of that money is kind of invested and saved, then I've got money for the bills, right? Rent, cars, you know, all of that type of stuff, electricity, you name it. So I try to make sure I have, you know, plenty and I can pay all my bills comfortably. And after that is generally like buying things that I like. Again, whether it's buying gifts, supporting the parents, going on trips, supporting my own hobby. Again, I like photography. I also play guitar. So a couple of years ago, I bought myself a really nice guitar. Anything with gaming. I don't play a whole lot of games other than Halo, but if I want to buy myself some new skins or whatever, you know, I'll put money in there. So yeah, I just have this like free kind of fund to just buy kind of whatever I want, guilt-free, because I know, again, like all of my money is kind of taken care of. You know, I'm not thinking about short-term, can I pay my bills this month? Long-term, am I going to be okay when I'm older? And then mid-term, again, is the one I'm thinking about how I want to position myself. That's basically everything and how I think about my money. You know, for me, I think I'm probably at the age of 35 going to continue on this track in terms of philosophy for at least the next few years and continue to do things in this way. So I think it's been working out. I feel like I'm able to do all the things with money again for security and happiness. And so I'm going to keep, you know, working hard at what I'm doing and again, keep thinking about money as a means to an end. Hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, feel free to subscribe and leave a comment. Curious to hear your guys' thoughts on, you know, how much you invest and how you think about your money at a high level. But yeah, that's gonna do it. I'll see you guys in the next one.